first. My name is Camilla. I'm 24 years old, and I come from the southern end of Germany. It's called Allgäu. It's a it's a small area in the mountains, and at the beginning of this year, I couldn't bear it anymore just to do my job. Normally I'm a camera woman and worked as a camera woman and video producer for a longer period of time. And yeah, then I decided to quit my job, sell my home. I've been living in a van for a few years, and I just quit everything and decided to do full-time activism, and decided to walk through Europe to raise money for Plan for the Planet, because I'm really excited about what they're doing. They plant trees and educate young people in the topic of climate. And yeah, planning this whole idea, I came in contact with hello, you can join if you want to. Yeah, talking about this whole idea, we were developing the project further and further and further, and out of this idea of working for raising money, it was getting bigger and bigger, and we developed the project Go for Climate. I will tell you more about that later, but this is just what I'm doing now the whole time, like more than the whole time, sometimes 18 hours per day, so it's quite hard work, but it's fun, and I think it's really important. I'm here because I want to share the knowledge I was getting over the last month and years, because I think it's really important knowledge, because just with our knowledge we can change something and we can raise up. So yeah, that's why I'm here. If it's too much information, just say, stop please, less information. You can just talk to me, we're a little round, that's pretty cool. So if there are any questions or it's too much information, it's going too fast, just tell me. And I also want to excuse myself if my head is not running that good, because I've been lying ill in a tent for 2 days and just getting better today, so I'm really happy that I can give this workshop to you. I wasn't sure if I could, but I feel quite good today. But yeah, excuse me if I'm talking a little bit rubbish sometimes. So yeah, I would say we start. I will give you an idea how the workshop will be. So first of all, we start with our problem and the climate crisis, and the most two important points about it. It's the carbon budget we have left, and the tipping points, and what all of this means. And but just shortly, because I think all of us know more or less what this means. Then we will go to a very interesting question: why Africa is that important in the climate crisis. I think this may be new for some people of us, because it was new for me too, and it's really exciting to get to know all these numbers and facts. And after that we will talk about global solutions in the climate crisis. This is the main part of the project, because not just of the project, of the workshop and of the project, because it's what we are doing, like giving hope and showing what solutions are already there and possible, and for what solutions we can fight for. And after that we will talk more detail about Go for Climate, and I would love to discuss with you ideas how we could make it bigger and better, and get your feedback about the whole project. Yes, are there any questions about the structure yet? No. Okay, then maybe just for waking up. Who knows what the carbon budget is?
Carbon what budget?
CO2 budget. So have you heard about the CO2 clock already?
Should we raise our hands if we know it?
Yeah, if you know it, you can just raise your hand and say something.
But I'm not sure if I can say something. In English, I will try it. I heard something that some scientists calculated that when we want to be under 2 degrees, we only have a special budget CO2 that we can put in the atmosphere. And I don't know the number, but I think they said that we can go on like yet for 9 years, and then we should shut all down, all emissions.
There were really good parts in it. I will come to it. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I still have got the same idea of climate budget. In 2015 we were at pilgrimages, and there, for me, there was the first time that I heard about climate justice, and they say every human on this earth has got the same right to pollute or to imitate CO2, to hold 1.5 degrees. There is round about 2.5 tons CO2 per person and year. If we go over it, we can't hold 1.5 degrees. And it's very important. Yesterday I was by the workshop over the sea and the climate, and this man said in 2015 the people thought, the scientists thought, that the emission of methane is still stable and constant. But now in the last few years the permafrost is melting, and from that, this is a big methane quelle source, and because of this we must go 40% less with our CO2 emissions, which means from around about 2.5 minus 40% means probably 1.5 tons CO2 per person in year. And in Germany we are at the level from around about 11 or 12 tons per person in year, which means we have to reduce 80 or 90% of our CO2 emissions.
You're picking up some really good points in there. I just give you a little bit structure about these whole informations. So I start with showing you what the CO2 budget is. There are lots of these clocks, CO2 budget clocks. I don't know if you have seen some of them. Hi, this is going. If you have seen some of them already, you can find them in the internet, and some people are putting them up in their cities. And these CO2 clock says, okay, we have this much amount of CO2 we can emit during we come to tipping points where we go over 1.5 degrees or 2 degrees. There are two different scenarios. Like this is the 1.5 degrees scenario. We have like a little bit more than 8 years. If we do it like we are doing it now, like not with raising CO2 emissions, but if we have the same CO2 emissions than we have now, we have just left a little bit more than 8 years, and then we will cross this 1.5 degrees. This is not much time. If you have to think about that we are now just raising our CO2 emissions. We are not like cutting them down, we are raising them, so it's not much time. And maybe what is really interesting about that too, from which line we are talking about, these degrees. We are talking about the degrees that raised from the pre-industrial times. So 150 years ago we have this 0 degree line, and now we are already have raised our temperature 1.2 degrees. So we are not far away anymore from 1.5 degrees. For the 2 degree scenario, we have lots of more years left, so 26 years. That sounds, oh, very much, but this is also not very much. maybe to just that you know the difference between 1.5 and 2 degrees and why are there two numbers, because everybody's wondering why are they talking about 1.5, they talking about 2 degrees. 1.5 degrees is the whole states of the world wanted to set a goal to cut the CO2 emissions and under this temperature raising level, and they said 2 degrees. But then some island states came up and said, okay guys, 2 degrees and we are not there anymore. So with 2 degrees, that means that already lots of island states are gone. They are not here anymore. So they just said, okay, we can't like put our sign under that. So they said, okay, 1.5 degree. But this is really not going to happen. Wahrscheinlich, so probably. This is probably not going to happen. So what we are talking about is this 2 degree scenario, and what will happen there, so just that you understand, when we go over these 2 degrees, this is when we reach or when we step over this these 2 degrees, we will reach tipping points. That is what you said, a little bit of what you said. These tipping points, there are known, scientifically known 15 tipping points at the moment, but they are getting more and more. What are tipping points? These are points where the whole system is like tipping over and where we lose control over everything. So when we go over these 2 degrees, we can't handle the whole climate crisis on ourselves anymore. So this is why the 2 degrees are really that dangerous, because after 2 degrees we can't change anything anymore. Now we can have an effect. We are always talking about the human-made climate crisis, and then now we can change everything and switch it so that we can save ourselves, but not after 2 degrees. Now the question comes up, why? Why is this just such an important point? It's an important point because there are these tipping points, and okay, what happens if we step over 2 degrees? We have, for example, permafrost, what you already said. In the permafrost we have biomass, for example, tree trunks. You have to think about this permafrost melting, and this tree trunk is coming up from the permafrost and it's rotting. With rotting, CO2 and methane comes out of the stump and goes into the air, and these are bad gases for climate. So we have more global warming. And maybe it would be interesting for you to hear more about numbers. I'm just checking sometimes because my head is not running that well with all my illness. Okay, just with the permafrost melting, we will set free 37 billion tons CO2 just in this century. Not century, Jahrhundert? Century. Okay, perfect. I don't want to talk.
Can you say how many degrees it makes?
I can say, but I have another comparison so that you know how much that is. And there comes another number on top of this. It's not just the CO2, it's 1 billion ton methane on top of it. I don't know if you know that methane is like, according to what statistics you go, but around 30 times worse than CO2. So it's really not good for us. And if you think about these huge numbers, according to our carbon budget we have, so according to our 26 years, okay, we just reached this point when we already are behind these 26 years, but just that you have a comparison how much that is. It would be 6% of our carbon budget we have for the 26 years. So 6% just in like that, just because of permafrost. This is huge. This is just one tipping point out of 15 that are already known, and they are getting more. Another point is, or maybe you know, point 2 and 3. It's situated around the North Pole. Could you think about what these tipping points could be?
The Arctic ice is melting, thereby more seawater comes to light, less reflection of the sunlight, and that means even more warming up.
That's perfect. When this is the swimming ice, it's just 2 to 3 meters thick, and we don't have the problem with raising water because it's already in the water, so it can't raise it further. But there's the albedo effect, that's what you call the mirror effect. The light comes in from the sun, and it's reflecting from this ice. Like 90% is reflected back, and if this ice is gone, these 90% go into the water as thermal energy. So this will change a lot. It will change, for example, maybe you've been yesterday at the workshop for sea and climate change. It will change a lot for the oceans, and it will also raise the global warming. And another point, it's also around the North Pole. Any idea?
The melting of the inland glaciers.
That
maybe follows the warming of the sea around it and the climate in the north.
We are talking about melting of Greenland ice. So it's the ice that is on land. It's much thicker than the ice in the water. It's 2 to 3 kilometers thick. This is huge. And all of this is on land. That means if this goes into the water level raises up huge. So
You said 7 meters yesterday when all the Greenland ice is gone. 7 meters for
Yeah.
the Greenland ice.
that's what I wanted to say. It's 7 meters in the next few centuries, but in this century it's like 1.3 meters just in this century. But we have to think about what lies here from the Netherlands. So you maybe know what that means. It's huge, and most of the people in the world live next to the coast, and all of them will flee. We just had, you saw it, I can just talk from a German perspective, but I think lots of people in Europe saw how the people got more right politically to the right side because they were immigrants from other countries. They are expected as many migrants, not migrants from just because of climate, than live in Europe at the moment. This is huge. This is 1,000 times more than that were fleeing in 2015, where everybody was so scared. 1,000 times that much. This is huge. So we have to stop all of this. This is why we're here. Okay, I'm just checking if I just missed something. No, I just didn't miss something here. So just that you can think about, these are the well-known 3 points of these 15, but there are also points not counting in these 15, like microbes in the ground. If it's getting warmer, they work faster. You know it in summer when your compost is rotting faster. It's because it's warmer and they work faster. They produce methane and CO2. They work faster. There's more methane and CO2 in the air. This is just happening everywhere, these tipping points. So we have to stay under these 2 degrees, because after that we have no control anymore and it's getting really hot in here.
at something. Yesterday, a man from the sea and climate change said we are not really at 1.2 degrees because the ocean is absorbing 90% from the heat. And there's so much heat energy in the oceans, which are really, really big, that in the next centuries there will come 0.4 degrees, round about a half degree more, because the ocean is giving up his heat to the atmosphere.
Yeah.
So when we are clear, then we can't fix 1.5 degrees because of the heat which is still in the ocean. And the scientists are not sure. At the moment there is coming up that we can't hold the tipping points also if we're going small over 1.5 degrees. They are not sure if we can fix the tipping points at 1.5 degrees. That's a danger in all the things.
That's why I just barely skipped 1.5%, because we don't know what effects come on top of all of we know already. So we don't know what this effect will do. So we're just okay.
I always throw in for this, we can't predict what the weather will be like in 30 years, but we can't even predict what the weather will be like next week. This is about like the accuracy we have at the moment, despite like all scientists working together.
So, but and this is maybe a good information for you. These CO2 clocks, this would be a point that I wanted to come to now. They are not just exact. They are not scientific. They are just like to show the people the danger and the time problem we have, because everybody's talking about we have to change something, shut down coal mines 2038, and because okay, starting over. Another point. I was talking to a scientist about one of our global solutions. It's about reforestation, and we were talking about how to get people to change something. And he said earlier, scientists raised numbers and made studies, and then they went to politicians and said, okay, we have this problem, and the politicians said, okay, how we can change it, and they changed it. They made rules so that they can support a change. What is happening now is that for 30 years, scientists has been going on and on and on to talk to the politicians to change something, but they didn't do anything. Why? Because the power is not anymore in our system. The power is not anymore lying within just the politics. It's in the money. And who has money? It's, for example, companies that have fossil fuels or that earn money with fossil fuels. So the whole industry influences politicians. So we were talking, or he has been bringing up a really interesting point. He said we have to, as scientists, as out of the view of a scientist, we have to go new ways. We have to find a way to with our studies to the heart of the people and to reach the people, the ground people, so that they can put pressure on the politicians. This is our new way as scientists to work. It's crazy. He said it's crazy. We have to think completely different, but this is how we can change something in this time. So maybe this is a good information for you, because you know, maybe we can understand better how the scientists try to work out new ways and to reach us. And this CO2 clock is such a way. It's not precise. It's an idea, to get an idea of what's happening. This is just the problem we have and the situation we have. We have a carbon budget. We have 8/26 years left. After this, after these 26 years, we step over these tipping points, and we can't handle human-made climate change by ourselves, because it's out of our hands. So we have to change. We have to. You were talking about cutting CO2 emissions. We have to cut CO2 emissions to 0 at this time stage. And this is huge. 0 CO2 emissions in 26 years worldwide. This looks like a huge problem. And politicians at the moment are talking like, okay, we should change something, but they are not actually changing something. And we have a spotlight on the whole topic. I talked to many people in this camp already about that. We have like climate topic as mainstream. You can walk to a bar in the middle of Bavaria, that's what I did, and there were old guys sitting with their beer on the benches and talking about climate, and you're like, what? In the middle of Bavaria, old guys like 80 years old, that's so cool. So we have reached mainstream with this topic, and we have to use this to change something now. That's the opening of this workshop, so we know where we stand and we know we have to change something. Are there any questions about that yet?
I don't got a number from you. Can you repeat the number? How much degrees will the atmosphere go warmer because of the ocean?
Because of the ocean, 0.4, he said yesterday.
Yeah.
Was there another person in the workshop yesterday? You were there. Can you remember? Was it 0.4? I mean, it was 0.4 because the heat energy in the ocean, which is huge. We are now at 1.2.
1.2, 1.3 about.
Yeah, plus 0.4 means 1.6. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So we're close to 2 degrees, and it's rising exponentially. Yesterday he showed us a graph where you shown all the prognosis the scientists did in the past. We had stepped over it. We get warmer than every prognostication in the past. So that means, and when we're talking about, all right, we can't hold 2 degrees, in my mind I think, what about 2 degrees? My God, if it's 18 or 20 degrees. But when we can't fix 2 degrees, we go to a heat time, which means we get the next stable plateau is on plus 6 or 7 degrees more. And this had never been in the human area of life. Never humans had such temperature we're going up to now.
Yeah. We could talk about this the whole day because it's a whole science just about these numbers. I just wanted to give you an idea so that we talk about the same thing. So I would move on because the workshop is mostly about solutions. It's just like I want to bring you down so that you're like, oh, crying, and then we have solutions. No, just kidding. But yeah, we want to concentrate on the solutions. So are there any more questions or points about that, Cass? Yeah.
As an ongoing scientist and statistician, I want to make very clear, all these numbers are great for like discussion rounds and everything, but they're not exact. When you say like,
Yeah.
oh, we might have 26 years to save the planet, might also be that actually the 8 years prediction is
Yeah.
correct. So it's like we have 8 to 26 years, and everything beyond 8 years is basically like gambling. So it's like playing Russian roulette in the end.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
Every year, actually you have like a revolver with like 1 bullet in it, and then what's the difference? 18 holes in total, and every year you have to do like a click and see if you survive.
Yeah.
So we better like get rid of the thing while we
Yeah.
still can.
That's what I said. It's just more about getting an idea of the whole problem and of the time pressure we have. But it's not precise, and there are lots of different numbers. But they are good enough to get an idea. What was your
Is
question?
there a number of people who are going to lose their homes because of climate change, or especially because of the sea level rising?
There are predicted numbers, that's what we're talking about, but I can't give it to you. I just know that there are predicted fleeing people, like as many as living in Europe at the moment, around 400 million people, I think. Yeah. But this is something you can easily look up in the internet if you're interested. But it's huge. It's huge, and it's scaring because you know how people get scared if they know how many people are coming into their places. So we shouldn't get there to this point. Okay, so just to pick it up. Okay, we just have an idea of our problem. And the thing what we do now is just talking about local solutions. So we're just talking about everybody should change something in their own consumption, should stop to fly, should be vegan, and so on and so on and so on. And I am vegetarian myself. I sold my van. Okay, it was my home, but I'm not driving anymore. I'm taking the train. I'm not flying. So I do all these things. But I also know if we don't do more, and if we don't know what we have to do worldwide, global, then it's no matter if every German or European would stop flying. This won't happen, but even though we would have a problem, because there is the global world and climate is a global problem, so we have to see it in a global context. And for me it's important to do these things, being vegetarian, because it just gets the topic up in the society. Maybe, I don't know if you have talked, I think so, I think you have talked with lots of people about climate crisis, because they are asking, why are you going with the train? Like, I'm preparing this project, Go for Climate, in Uffing am Staffelsee. It's a really little village in Bavaria, and my place where I come from is like with the car 1 hour 20 away from it. If you take the train, what I do every 2 weeks, 2 times, it's like 3.5 hours the whole way around. And people ask, okay, why are you doing it? So you bring the topic up, you talk about it. This is really important. But at the moment, just that you get an idea of what's happening worldwide, 1,400 Kohlekraftwerke?
Coal power station.
Coal plants, thank you, are planned or just have been building right now at the moment, 1,400. So we have to think global, and we have to talk to the politicians to change something on a global scale. Another interesting number might be what happens in Africa at the moment. We have 5 billion euro per year that are invest people for oil and gas Förderung.
That's all right.
Extraction?
Extraction, yeah, for oil and gas. 5 billion per year. But they don't want to decrease these numbers. They are planning, and this is like open source, they are planning to, they are planning to increase these numbers to 55 billion euro per year, just as an investment every year in oil and gas industry. So this
Milliarden sind Billion, Milliarden.
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 In German it's Milliarden. 55 Milliarden. And so it's getting worse, it's not getting better. Just that you get an idea of what's happening global. Why is this happening global? This is a good question, and this is also the question, why do we walk to Africa with our project? We have lots of, here you can help me again, Wohlstand?
Living standard.
Wealth, yeah. We have wealth here. And there are many countries in the world that they don't have wealth, and they should get to it, like we are there. So we should get a wealth level all over the world, the same wealth level, that's clear. But we have to think about where are the people getting there, how are the people getting there. So when we look to China, every human has a footstep, a carbon footprint. So this footprint in Germany is about, depending on the numbers, it's just depending on everything. But I'm talking about the same numbers, just that you get an idea. In Germany, we're talking about a carbon footprint of 11 to 12 tons CO2 per year per person. This is huge. In Africa, it's 1 ton per year per person. So 1 to 11 to 12, this is a huge difference. In China, you know, China has raised their wealth in the last years a lot. So what did they do? They were building their wealth on fossil fuels and fossil energy, and they increased their footprint in the last 10 years, just in 10 years, from 4 tons CO2 per person per year up to 8. They doubled it. They doubled it in just 10 years.
And that's not yet.
Yeah, that's not over. They are increasing. At the moment, China is polluting a quarter of the whole CO2 emissions. A quarter. This is huge. There are lots of people there, yes, but it's huge. How many people are there? In China are living 1.2 billion people, so Milliarden in German. It's the same than in India and the same in Africa. 1.2 billion people. I would say we already lost China because they are building their wealth on fossil fuels and fossil energy. Africa, in most places, Africa is new to raising their wealth. So in Africa we have just 1 ton CO2 per person per year, and the question now is how they will raise their wealth. Will they raise their wealth like China did it, with the help of fossil fuels, like we did it? So it's not that we can say, oh, you shouldn't do it because we did it too. But the problem is if they do it like China did, and we look to 2050. This is an important point about Africa. African population growth will be huge, and they will double their population to 2050 to 2.4 billion people. And in 2100 they will be 4.4 billion people. In China and in India, where they are living 1.2 billion people at the moment, so the same like in Africa, the population growth is not that big. It's just in 2100 they will still be under 2 billion people. So it's a huge growth of population in Africa and a huge growth of CO2 emissions if they do it the same as we did with fossil fuels, building up their wealth with fossil fuels. So what will happen then? In 2050, they would emit half of the carbon dioxide we emit worldwide at the moment. This is huge, like half of it. Now they're just so small emissions, but in 2050 it would be half of it. This shouldn't happen. So what can we do to solve this problem? We can't just go there. You don't deserve wealth. That's not what we want to do, because they deserve it as we do. But we have to work together globally. So for globally, as Europeans, it means Africa, because they're quite close to us. And we have to work together to help them to leapfrogging. We call that leapfrogging because they are stepping, like, jumping over this fossil fuel energy thing we did, and just jumping up to renewable energies and just leaving fossil energies out. This is leapfrogging, and this is what
How is it called?
Leapfrogging. So we have to help them. Yeah, we have to help them to step over this. To go over this step and just build their wealth on green energy. This is why we walk to Africa. Yes?
So I already read an article about India because there's the same problem, but also in India they will be create green revolution and a lot of green energy because they found out in India that green energy, for example with the sun and water, is more effective for all of the population living there, and it's more
Profitable?
profitable,
Yeah.
So the same with Africa. So it's not that the green energy, we don't mind just saving the earth, but also that it's more profitable for the population too.
Yeah.
And that's where these two points can come together. It's really interesting.
That's exactly it, because the fun fact maybe we have we are not far away from each other, and so we can work very good together. But this whole idea is working all over the world. So it's we come to the global solutions in a few minutes, and it has a lot to do with deserts. And deserts are all over the world. And so this whole idea works all over the world, but we're concentrating on Africa and Europe because it's close to us and we have to begin somewhere. Yes, so India is also a point, and also Southern America and so on, but we're concentrating for our project at the moment on Africa. Okay, yeah.
I think this is quite good. I heard I'm an engineer, and I started to study regenerative energies and energy efficiency in Kassel, and there I heard that Africa still has got the opportunities, the possibility to become the first continent which is 100% green energy. That's a frog. How is it called? Frog.
Leapfrogging.
Leapfrogging.
Yeah.
There's a really big chance in it.
Yeah, it is. Okay, if this is it with your questions, I would go to the thing why maybe most of you are here, Global Solutions. Yay! Because we just are talking all over the place about problems, time pressure, how scared we are. I'm scared, that's why I skipped my job for all of this. And we all talk about problems and that we have to change something. So we decided to make this project to take what's there, to take the solutions already there. We are focusing on 6 solutions, there are more, but we're focusing on these 6 solutions, and we want to let people know about it, because so many people don't know about these solutions, and we think that we can give them hope knowing about it, and we can help them bringing it to their politicians. So this is why we do this project. We want to give hope, and we want to give information so that change is coming. And positive change, not just we have to change, but we have to change exactly that. So I will start with the first of the 6 solutions. I already said something about that before. It's reforestation and protecting forests that are here at the moment. We have enough space for 1 trillion trees at the moment. They will not be planted in deserts. They will not be planted in on agricultural places, and not where people live. So, but there is space for 1 trillion trees. In German, it's 1000 Milliarden. 1000 Milliarden. 1 trillion. This is huge, and this is also expensive, but it's huge. We were talking about the carbon budget before. What do these trillion trees for us? They save us 15 years. They give us, on top of these, we were talking about this is all like more or less numbers, but we're talking around about 15 years more time to change everything in this is huge. When we talk about 8 to 26 years, 15 years is a lot. There has been studies from, for example, the Crowther Lab. It's a study that has been open to everybody in July this year, and it went through media because the people were, wow, we have to plant trees. So many people didn't knew about it. So how is this working? Just to start at the base, we plant a tree. The trees are taking CO2 out of the air, saving the sea, so the Kohlenstoff, carbon, thank you, saving the carbon in their stems, and setting free the old in it. So we are, yeah, this is just our most natural machine to bring CO2 out of the air and save it in the trunks. Maybe you're wondering now, okay, but when the tree is has lived and it's over, or we don't have space anymore, what happens then? The tree is falling down, and then the sea, the tree is rotting, and it goes back into the air. So the best idea would to cut down all these trees when they are full with CO2, so when their life, when their growth slows down, and put them in a big hole and close it. This would be an idea.
Make furniture out of it.
This would be a really good idea. Imagine how this looks like, a real hole, a real big hole with all these trees in it. No, this would be one possibility, but there's another thing that that's responsible for huge emissions of